I sealed it in some groups. Hello, by the way, Preston. My name is Yellow.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. I'm the weird thing.
You don't look weird. That looks pretty normal to me.
Are we taking wagers on whether or not Marcus is coming in tonight?
Oh, I need Marcus, man. Like, we have to talk about it.
Marcus and RD are probably sleeping right now.
It's very current news with the Udi and the other guy's name, right?
Dennis.
Yeah.
Dennis
It looks like we're live.
Yeah, we're live.
Wow.
This is how we do it. You know, we're not going to warn you. It's going to happen.
I was hoping that you'd share the potato Greg if you made that already.
Yeah, did you make potato Greg yet? There aren't enough of them.
So everyone, welcome. Another test stream of the Meme Factory, where we just sit talk and nothing more. Don't expect to find wisdom here. Just guys sit talking. So we have today Preston. Yeah, and Decentralization. Maybe today I'll do some Glassnode segment. I don't know. We have Preston Pysh, right? Pysh, right?
It's close enough. Yeah.
My Greek accent, man. Like, sorry. Pysh. It's ironic, right?
Very.
The Greek can't say the English word. Anyway, what's up? Welcome.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So
what's Labrahodl there flying?
You don't recognize
don't
that?
Remember that picture?
No,
you took that picture. Don't remember? You took that picture for me.
You weren't supposed to tell people.
So I think
Okay.
Mike has some questions noted for us. I don't know if anybody has them ready to go.
Mike's questions are fantastic. I don't have them ready to go because they're kind of one flavor, but
we'll find them.
I do have. I want to tell Preston that I'm really enjoying what he's done with the show. All right, with the We Study Billionaires. It's gone from just the single flavor Preston to now multiple flavors of Preston, like Trey Lockerbie and others. And he's definitely taken the salsa approach of people don't like it. People like it chunky and they like it light. So what do you think? Who's Preston light and who's Preston dark beer is what I want to know.
Preston light and Preston dark beer. I don't even know what you're asking me with that, Greg. What are you asking?
So on your show, it's gone from it's been you and just you for a very long time. Well, not just you, but you've recently added on some new talent.
Yeah.
And I want to know if there was what was the thought process going into the different flavors of Preston that you've put on to in addition to Preston Classic?
So, I mean, at the end of the day, I was gonna cover Bitcoin, and like we've been doing the show. Stig and I have been doing the show for so many years at this point. Like, we're getting smoked. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm tired. Like, it's really fun to do. It's really fun to interact with people. But I mean, I think we've been doing it since 2013 or something. I mean, it's been a long time. Every single week, coming up with. I mean, it's creative content. So you're having to do all the research, these people that you're interviewing, you got to bring your A game. You can't just be slacking. Right. And it has to be new content. You can't be talking about the same crap. So, we're tired. We're smoked. And then I was like, hey, I'm going to go off and I'm going to do purely Bitcoin. I'm not going to cover anything other than Bitcoin because for people, full disclosure, Stig and I both think that we're at this point in time that it is extremely important that people understand all the nuances of Bitcoin specifically. And so we're like, all right, we have to have a feed for this. And then we still got to cover all the traditional stuff that we've been covering for all these years because that's what our audience was completely geared for. That's what they wanted to hear. And so we knew Trey. We thought Trey was a good fit. Trey comes with an awesome network as far as getting people onto the show. Most importantly, the thing with Trey is that he is he's a business owner. Like, if I think that, like when I think of traditional finance, people working on Wall Street, like they're managing other people's money. They've never run their own business. They've never created real value in the marketplace that requires a competitive like edge, right? And so I think for people to talk about investing and talk about like which company they're going to buy, this and that, like first and foremost, they got to understand business. And so Trey brought that angle where, I mean, he stood up this kombucha company. I mean, it's a legit large company, at least in my opinion. It still would be considered a small business, but
Chill it. What's his company?
It's called Better. His company's called Better Booch. And so
Better
I mean,
Booch. And where can you get Better Booch?
Anywhere out in the West Coast, Trader Joe's. They fulfill orders for they fulfill orders for kombucha for companies that would literally blow your mind if I told them, but I obviously can't tell you the companies that they fulfill orders for because they put their own labels on them, right? So I mean, he has an amazing business. He comes with that mindset. Him and his wife stood up this entire business on their own, and he was always interested in this because he had listened to our show for many years. We met him out in Omaha many years ago, and we've just stayed in touch. And we Stig and I both really liked him, and we thought that he had just a great presence in the way that he can present material, right? So he was just a win all around for us to bring onto the program. And then I could just solely focus on Bitcoin. And then Stig still does shows, but he's much more on the operations side. Like when you think about like how our business operates, like it's not me doing the operational day-to-day stuff. Stig is crushing all of that stuff. It's not me. So that's kind of how the shows kind of evolved from here. And
so is Trey the one that got Howard Marks on recently?
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of his books. Was it Mastering the
Me
Market
too.
Cycle?
Yeah.
And,
I'm a huge fan of Howard Marks. And like you talk about a guy, and I know a lot of people in Bitcoin are kind of like laugh at value investing, and that's fine. I mean,
that's how I got to Bitcoin.
I understand both sides of the arguments here. But when you think of like heavy hitters in the value investing space, I mean, this guy's a multi-billionaire. I don't even know the size of his fund, but it's huge.
And, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, you talk about like one of the biggest names behind like Buffett or Munger in the value investing space. It's probably Howard. Like, I mean, he's huge. And yeah. I mean, there's Trey out there bringing Howard Marks on the show.
Yeah.
So I mean, how can anybody like?
I assumed it was one of your interviews when I saw it. I pulled it up and it wasn't you. I was like, wow, okay. Howard's willing to talk to somebody else.
I mean, we had interviewed him previously, right?
Okay.
But Trey went out there, and for all I can, just trying to like look at it objectively, I don't know that Howard would even remember doing our interview because he does so much stuff. But I mean, yeah, Trey went out, got him on the show. He came on. I mean, Trey gave an incredible interview, and I mean, he's a winner, right? Like he just goes out there, he understands business, he can talk stuff at a very high level, he can talk accounting and really kind of piece it all together. And for us, that's really important, especially for just kind of the audience we've built with the show. So
I've got a really hard hitter for you. And this is one that it's been bugging me for a couple of days now. So you tweeted out, you were trying to get Ross Stevens on your pod recently. And you tweeted out with the picture of you with Ross, different Ross.
I made the picture. I made
Ross.
The picture. As much as you don't believe that, I made that picture.
Not only do I don't believe it, I think you're full of shit. I don't know.
Don't believe it.
I don't. No, I want to see you make another one. But in the tweet.
Okay. Tell me who you want me to superimpose my face on, and I'll do it.
Superimpose your face on. I want you to.
My face.
I want you to superimpose your face on Fat Bastard from Austin Powers.
Why did I say it that way? That was so stupid.
No take backs.
That's a clip. Thanks.
All right. So on the tweet, you wrote that Ross wrote you a happy little no, and for the life of me, I don't know what the hell a happy little no is. So I'm hoping you could tell me.
You didn't get the reference. You didn't get the reference. The
No, there's a reference.
Yeah, it's a happy little tree, right? It's a happy little cloud. Like that's how Bob Ross paints, right? There's no mistakes. That's why there was
right over my head.
That's why there was 30 minutes. I can have this done in 30 minutes because every painting he did was 30 minutes, right?
In fairness, Greg is a potato, so sometimes he misses that kind of thing.
Maybe I'll just superimpose his face on a potato then.
You should. You absolutely should.
I can do it.
That would be awesome.
I can do it.
I don't think you can, but it would be awesome.
I mean, if there's one thing I would say Jason Williams is terrible at, and it's pretty much the only thing Jason Williams, he's terrible at is like he cannot superimpose his face on things that make it look real, right? It looks so fake, but it's so fake that it looks awesome.
Especially when you added the pit fuckers.
So like mine looked real, but I don't even think people could tell that it was my face. They probably thought it was still Bob Ross's face on there, but it was my face on there. I worked so hard on it.
You could tell because you had the laser eyes, same laser beams as on your profile picture.
Yeah. So there you go. So you can see the same person that made that.
I gotta say,
I hire the guy. He's really good.
I gotta say, whoever made your Avi, Preston, is one of the most badass Avis on Bitcoin Twitter.
Which one?
The Avi you have on Twitter.
Your profile picture.
Oh, my profile picture. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. You like it or not? Because I made that
like
too. I personally made that. People don't believe me.
Are you taking credit for everything now?
Trying to take our
Guys, you know what else?
Why do you think he and I get along?
I think Preston made Bitcoin.
I swear to you, I made it.
Preston is Satoshi.
Cool.
His name's Greg, right?
I believe Preston. I believe Preston.
Guys,
So we have
if you need a
Preston.
profile
Should we ask like any real world news that's going on, like with the China bubble thing, the house Bible thing, with Evergrande?
Yeah.
Evergrande. Like, how do you feel like this centralized planned clusterfuck over there, in relationship, of course, with our thing, Bitcoin? Yeah. And do you think like it has an effect in the markets? And are we gonna see another liquidity run going on, like the
here's the thing that's really hard to predict with any of this is how are the central banks going to respond to it? How is the CCP going to respond to it? Because we're at a point now where everything is so manipulated that like what would normally, if you're operating in a real free and open market, what would normally play out in the cascading liquidations and things like that, then it gets to this 50% sell off, and then central bankers are like, oh God, we better do something or else this thing's going to go to an 80% sell off, and then they'll step in, and then it, right? So the question now is, because things are so manipulated, are they just going to step in at a 5% drop in equity markets and then try to stop the cascading sell-offs? Like, I don't know. It's really hard to be able. Anybody who tells you that they think they know, like, don't listen to them. Like, the only thing that I know for sure is that there's going to be plenty of liquidity that's supplied in the coming year to 3 years to prevent an event like Evergrande to really kind of materialize into anything meaningful. Like, I feel very confident about that. Now, do they catch it after a 5% sell-off, a 20% sell-off, or a 50% sell-off? I don't know. I really don't know. I do know this. That company is massive. We're talking about a 300 billion market cap kind of size company. I've heard that some of their obligations to their suppliers is another 300 billion. I've got to do a little bit more research on it, to be quite honest with you, to kind of really wrap my head around the numbers. And I'm recording something with Jimmy Song in the morning, but I just haven't done enough research on it right now to get into the nitty gritty of the accounting. But then when you look at the coupons that they're defaulting on, that they're not paying, the interest that they're not paying, I want to say that was to the tune of like 6 or 7 billion. So like, you're dealing with massive numbers that will have an impact. And this is the way that I would describe this to people, to just kind of wrap your head around it. If you go and open a tab at a bar and you're like, hey, I'm going to pay you back at the end of the night, and my tab's at 50 or $100, in Yellow's case, it might be, $12 by the end of the night. And so that's a promise. You're going to pay that back right at the end of the night. But what happens if somebody comes to you before the end of the night and they say, give me everything in your wallet because you owe me for this other thing the other day? Well, now that situation, that impairment of your wallet now has an impact to the bartender that you're not able to do. Now that bartender might have bills, bigger bills, if everybody's in the same scenario that aren't paying their tab at the end of the night, that now they can't pay their electrical bill, which was due the next morning. And it just flows and flows and flows downhill. And this is all a function of just fractional reserve banking. The whole credit system that our current economy runs on is based on this idea of however many units are in there in the system as a whole. Like if there's 100 fiat units in the system, there might be 300 units in the system in the way that it spends because of these promises that are made up. So like that promise that you're going to pay the bartender back at the end of the night spends like money, right? But it's not the actual like cash or the note that you have in hand. So that's the big difference. And I think that's what most people that participate in markets don't understand, is that the promise can trade. Like that bartender could go over to one of his friends and say, hey, this guy owes me this. I'm going to trade, or I'm going to sell you that promise, right? And but give me 95% of the value right now. And then he runs off and tries to spend it. And everybody's chasing those tangible notes of cash, which I call monetary baseline money. But that probably only makes up a third of like the actual money in the system when people are throwing around the word money. So most of it's promises. And so when it gets impaired, like Evergrande, those promises are now trickling, and now they can't repay all these other people, and it just keeps spreading. The contagion is the word everybody uses. That contagion spreads. And until some type of central bank comes in and says, here's some monetary baseline money, here's the notes to make this insanity of the promise cascading down, the broken promises, here's some notes to stop that from happening. That's the only way they can make it stop, is they have to get in.
That's only coming from printed money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They have to print it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that just reminds me of Dalio's, how the economic machine works.
Totally.
Right? Exactly what he kind of talks about. And it's interesting when he talks about it, he talks about the central banks, but he also talks about these boom bust cycles that are 80 years long. And then you have these mini boom bust cycles throughout. And so it seems like the only way now that we can, because so much money has already been printed, we're kind of forced on this road of just continually printing more and more liquidity, right? To cover up small mistakes, and then those roll into bigger mistakes, and then you get these huge mistakes like Evergrande, and then the only other option is to suffer a deflationary collapse. So that's what it looks like, right? Either print liquidity or suffer that deflationary collapse.
You're exactly right. And then what's the consequence that everybody learned from the bailout is they need to get deeper into the risk. So like they were making decisions. So like Evergrande is making a decision to be really risky with the way that they're competing with the companies that they're going up against. So they're making all these really risky decisions, and now all of a sudden they outpace that, and then these central banks will step in. Now they might not save Evergrande, they might save the other companies. But what is that teaching all the participants in this system globally is take more risk because it doesn't matter. Right? There's never a consequence for taking more risk. And we were seeing this when they were buying all the bonds here in the US back during the COVID, event. It was like, here they are stepping in and buying all this junk that should be exploding. It should be blowing up balance sheets left and right. And for all the people that were levered in taking these actions, they should blow up. And then people who actually have monetary baseline, who have been making wise decisions and aren't over levered, they can then step into the market, buy all this equity at a fire sale price, literally pennies on the dollar, right? And then do what they need to do in order to have good business practices and recapitalize all those assets and put them back to proper use. And if there is no proper use, then they'll kill them. But they got a pennies on the dollar, so they can do that kind of stuff. But none of those activities are taking place. They just keep stepping in and saving these people and incentivizing people going further and further out onto the risk curve. And
you're actually disincentivized to do sound financial work, right? Because if you don't take those big risks, then you're almost left behind.
You are left behind. Yeah. And so when you look at value investing, why is value investing underperformed? Well, maybe it's
you can't scoop up the deals
because they're being too responsible, maybe. Yeah. Right. And that's a temporary situation. Eventually, and I think unfortunately, I think that you might not have the situation where value investing is going to be like the place to be is until you have hyper Bitcoinization. So these people that are implementing this approach, it might not really kind of pan out for them relative to a momentum strategy until you get into hyper Bitcoinization, because then the responsibility is going to be forced upon the world that they have to act that way, or else they just blow up.
The price signal's broken.
The price signal is completely broken. Yeah.
How can you price anything?
It's funny how whenever we talk about the debt, we use words like cascading down, and whenever they talk about profits, they use like, what is it like, trickling down? Is it like trickle? What is the word?
Trickle down.
Trickle down.
Yeah.
Yeah, the printing trickles down, and the losses cascade down. Yep,
and it does.
Yeah, Howard Marks was talking about that. He was just saying that in the lesson he learned in 2008 was 2 years before that, 2006. He was taking a defensive strategy with Oaktree or Oakfront, whatever. With his with his fund, and then he was penalized for it, basically. All right, so when all the printing happened, he was in a defensive position, and it just it screwed him.
This is for you, Becca. Becca, this is for you, dance, bitch.
Now that's a real rate of return right there.
Yeah, he's printing money.
Yeah, man. Yeah. How much money you need? It's like a click for me.
You and everybody.
It's free, yeah. Central banker.
Yeah. So another thing that is going on around Twitter, I don't know if you want to talk about it, Preston. It's like the toxic maximalist, like new angle. Like, are we that mean? I think we had an incident too, as I don't know if you want to talk about it with Marcus and you blocked him. He unblocked you. He was a little bit mean, I guess. Like, is it too much sometimes? Are we sometimes like overdoing it with the joking and the memeing and the? How do you feel about it?
No, so for me, it was just like in that ad, right? I don't know how else to get it across. Like, all I do on that exchange is buy Bitcoin. Like, I literally said it in the ad. So when he's there, like putting a clown nose on you or whatever, like, I'm like, screw you, dude. Like, I'm sorry, but like, I don't know how else to do this ad other than say all I use the exchange for is buying Bitcoin. If you're saying that I'm, shilling shitcoins, like, I'm not. I'm sorry. Like, the exchange wants me to read this. I use the exchange for Bitcoin. But you know what? Here's the thing. I have kind of a different take on the shitcoin stuff. So I think in a way, all these people that are shitcoining are adding confusion into the narrative. Some people will look at that and say that's really bad and it's making it confusing for policymakers and all this stuff. I actually don't see it that way. I think that the more confusing this is, the better chance Bitcoin has to materialize into the global settlement layer. You have to do so much work to wrap your head around everything that's happening, right? Like, you got what I would consider smart people out there shilling things that are, in my opinion, are completely idiotic, right? That I think they actually believe like, oh, well, this one has this tech or whatever. And they totally missed the boat that this is all about decentralization, right? The whole thing is about decentralization.
Like Mark Cuban shills Dogecoin.
Bingo, right? So the fact that you have Mark Cuban out there, like, am I gonna beat him up from time to time and poke fun? Yeah, it's fun. We're having a good time, and maybe that's where Marcus, he's having a good time. He pissed me off for a day or two, right? It's fine. I unblocked him. Like, there's no hard feelings, right? Like, if Mark Cuban blocked me, I'd be like, yeah, I understand. I get it. Right. Like, I probably went a little too far there. That's fine. Like I know when I'm basically punching somebody in the face online digitally, if they block me, like I probably deserved that. No big deal. Right. Like there's a million other people that we can follow and whatever. And then if
you heard it here first.
Like, if you don't expect it, well, then maybe you're just kind of lost, right?
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Marcos is a piece of shit.
Marcus, if you're watching, my deepest sympathies. I'm so sorry, Marcus.
No, Marcus likes you, Preston. Marcus likes you a lot. He likes you a lot. He does. He listens to all your shows.
That's like I have to. I do remember when like he posted, he tweeted that, and he came to the group chat that it doesn't exist, like with us, and like he was like, "Am I being too mean?" He was like, "Am I being too mean?"
Well, let me put it this way: if I didn't block him for a day or whatever it was, I'm basically saying, yeah, like make fun of me more, right? Like you gotta like. My only way I can fight back and say, "Hey, jerk or asshole or whatever," like, "Hey, I didn't like that. Stop it," right? Like, you can't say that, or people are gonna like quadruple down. Come on, you trust me. You participate in some of the military units that I've been in, and if you can't figure out that like people will feed on certain behaviors, you're kidding yourself, right? Like,
no, you're right. There's no way that you could have responded to that, and
there's no way you can respond to it. Like, oh, please stop that. No, like it's not a big deal. It wasn't a big deal. That's
one way. Maybe like a Layota with dildo eyes or something.
That's true. You could have put Marcus's avatar.
If you replied with that to us, you will be like become a god, like to us right away.
If I would have recorded the ad and didn't say something like, and all I use this for is Bitcoin. All right, dude, like I got it. Like everything that you're saying and doing is 100% legit, right? Like I get it. You should say that to those people, right? You should do those things. But to me, it was just like, all right, dude, like, come on. Like, what do you want from me? Like, do you want me to do this show for free? I've been doing this for like 10 years. Like, I'm exhausted. Like, to be quite honest with you, I could stop doing the show tomorrow and I would not lose any sleep over it and not participate on Twitter and just like disappear into the distance. And like, I would be a very happy person. I got plenty of other things in my life that fulfill me. I don't need to be on Twitter and doing a show anymore. Like,
please don't do that.
Just don't.
We also have to welcome RD. Welcome, RD. How are you, man?
RD.
Good morning, guys.
RD, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, right.
Check.
Immediately mutes.
Did he mute?
What are you
All right, so
Oh yeah.
It's funny because Preston, I think a lot of times when we think about like when someone's shilling Ethereum, I'm not saying that you were, right? But just in general, when people shill whatever coin they shill, I think a lot of times, like as plebs, we normally think about the noobs that are coming into the space. You know, when we're thinking about that confusion that you're talking about. Okay, is a noob gonna be someone that comes in and they're just gonna hear like Ethereum from Preston Pysh, and then they're gonna be like, well, what is this? Or they're gonna hear like XRP or Dogecoin from Mark Cuban and then start dabbling in that and then get wrecked, right? For when hyper Bitcoinization really happens, or even on some random rug pull like Solana or whatever that's called. And so I think a lot of times we think about the noobs that are coming into the space.
Cordano.
Cordano.
Well, you know what? I think that honestly, I think that's a great argument. I think I don't have a response to that. Like, I think that is a concern. And I think that, it goes back to like what I'm saying. If I didn't say that the only thing I'm buying on the exchange is Bitcoin, people could misconstrue that and be like, well, this guy just talked about an ad for an exchange and he just listed 20 tokens. Like, that's like, should I own one of those, or does he own one of those?
Yeah.
But I think that's a concern. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just saying, I think like, it's funny because a lot of us like in our past, when we're learning what Bitcoin is, like you first come into it thinking, and I've tweeted this out before, like you're either thinking, I don't want to lose all my money, or you're thinking, I want to make a fortune, right? Like you're thinking one of those two things, and you're not thinking about philosophy of money, and you're not thinking about like credit cycles. You're not thinking about any of that stuff, bond market. Like you don't know anything. You're just coming in thinking like, what's this shiny object? I don't want to lose my money, or I want to make a fortune on this thing. And so I think, everything. Right. And so, yeah, exactly. And you think you know everything. And so, but getting rug pulled by these little, these altcoins, I think has actually worked for us in the long run, because then it brought us to Bitcoin only. And then it just makes me think about, like, does it even matter if noobs get rug pulled? Because what really matters is that Bitcoin has its path to hyper Bitcoinization, and noobs getting rug pulled leads a lot of noobs like us who were noobs to Bitcoin only.
I think most of the panel here were noobs that got direct in shitcoins. So, yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you just said, Sean. I think that, and I mean, that's why on my show.
Thank you, Preston. Thank you, Preston.
The only interviews I do are Bitcoin interviews.
Yeah.
In 10 or 20 years, could there be another protocol that does? Maybe, I don't know, right? But yeah, well, I'm just saying, I don't know, but I do know that when I look at Bitcoin and I see that it's actually decentralized and it has a fixed number of units that's never changed since its inception, right? And I see everything that's broke on the macroeconomy, which is where I got my start, was studying all of that stuff. I'm saying this is the only thing that I believe somebody who's managing $1 billion bond tranche is going to stuff that buying power into. Like they're not gonna stuff a $10 billion bond tranche into Solana or whatever it's called. That's completely centralized by a couple key people that sit on most of the tokens. Like it's just not going to happen.
Well, I don't know if you knew this, but they restarted it.
I mean, it's just not going to happen.
I think the best comment about the Solana thing, clusterfuck, was of Hodlonaut's tweet that he said, "I didn't know Solana was a second layer to Discord."
That was great. That was Hodlonaut.
That was the best.
That was Hodlonaut.
Yeah, Hodlonaut.
He's been going ham on some shit posting about Solana. It's been great.
Let us share the screen, sir.
I think it's important that for people that are searching for like what the safe, probable, with a massive return upside choices, and like let's just keep it simple and to the basics, right? And so I try to do that as best I can. There's so many scammers out there. It is scary how many scammers are out there. And hopefully through the memes, like you guys have no power. You have no idea. I think maybe you do have an idea of how powerful it is what you guys do by just putting something out there, putting a short video clip that has, it's the equivalent of putting like a 10,000 word response to somebody's dumb comment, right? And so when a person sees that and they see the whole community piling in on it, there's no way you can walk away from that and say, maybe I'm missing something. If you're not consciously trying to scam somebody, if you're doing it and you're just misinformed, like the memes will set you straight. Like if they're not, then you're just totally socially inept.
Thank you.
Tell us more about how awesome we are.
So
I want to hear more.
No, I've got a good topic for conversation. All right, because this was dividing our entire meme factory earlier today. Are NFTs shitcoins?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, is there an NFT that I would own today of anything? The answer is no.
Not even a rock.
Not even a rock. Not even the JPEG of the rock.
How about the brick?
I think the question for me comes down to this. Why do you need a decentralized ledger to be doing the activities of a non-fungible token? Why does that have to be decentralized? right? Like that's the essence of the question of the whole NFT piece. When I think of like artwork in general, like the proof of work is there proof of work associated with coming up with a digital image? Of course. But is it as easy to understand as an oil painting? I'm sorry, I can see the proof of work in the oil painting so easily. It's just like, am I going to buy one versus the other? I'm going to buy the oil painting, but that's me. Some other people like digital art, but why do I need to have some non-fungible token on a decentralized ledger to have authenticity of owning the digital picture?
Well, the decentralized part of it might be debatable as well.
That's right. That's right. And that's assuming that's assuming that you're working on a decentralized protocol. I'm just giving them the benefit of the doubt of like that piece, which is extremely questionable.
Preston,
yeah, everybody talk. Everybody talk.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is Greg likes NFTs. He doesn't know it yet. Because he watermarks everything. He watermarks everything.
Look, I'm just putting my business card on the comic.
There's also an issue, even if it's decentralized. Like there's also an issue with the IP licensing and all that. Some projects do say they cover that, but I don't believe them. Anyway, but like if I made it a little bit difficult, more difficult the question, right? Like how about really decentralized NFTs issued on Bitcoin? Are those valuable? Is there value there?
No.
Well, I mean, what you're really getting at is especially in the digital artwork realm, you're owning a certificate to have rights to the revenue that it would kick off. Like that's on the digital side. That's why you would own something like that. On the physical art side, you have a certificate of authenticity that's provided through whatever type of service to prevent people from making duplicates of it, right? So when I'm thinking about like the NFT space, like you have this desire for a certificate so that you can collect income off of that thing. So like let's fast forward 20 years into the future. Let's say that people are wanting to use pictures on the internet, that you own that picture and you want to, anytime that it's displayed on a website like the Wall Street Journal or wherever, you name it, whatever news site is there, and that picture comes up and it's registered as a view, right? It was displayed on some browser. It's automatically associated with some of the revenue that web page collected for the reading of that article. And then that automatically comes back to the owner of that digital artwork. Are we there technologically, like for those types of things to be in place? Like,
no.
Get the hell out of here. You're nowhere close to that. Like nowhere close to any of that being a reality. Could it happen someday, 2 decades from now? Sure, maybe. I don't know. What would be the mechanism for like, assessing these revenues or the royalties that would be kicked off of this digital piece of artwork that was displayed? Dude, we are so far to the left of any of that it's just laughable. It's just laughable to me. So if you get a kick out of going out there and buying a JPEG for 100,000, I don't even know what this. I guess some of them are going for millions.
Millions.
Yeah. Millions, right? Yeah. Going for millions.
Millions of petrodollars.
And somebody else, can just copy paste it into their own thing. Like, hey, congratulations that it makes you feel good, but like I would suspect that the liquidity for this market, because you have all these individual like quote unquote assets, is going to dry up like people have never seen in their lifetimes as far as the valuations on things like that. I mean, look at the liquidity in highly traded stocks and how it can disappear. And you're talking about, 1 million shares of a company that's bringing in millions or billions of dollars. Like the liquidity can disappear for something like that. Now imagine
real
one
cash
share,
flow.
one share of a JPEG that does not kick off any type of revenue. And I guess it's my understanding that a lot of the artists are like selling the NFTs, but they're still retaining the rights as far as the usage rights for some of this stuff, and it's not actually transferable with the NFT, which just makes it more asinine. So, I mean, to me, the whole thing's just completely laughable. Whatever.
It's good chaff.
Yeah.
So, and with that, I feel like it's a perfect segment to do. I'm gonna do Glassnode today analysis. I'm not gonna do TA analysis. I'm gonna do Glassnode analysis. I feel Preston likes Glassnode. Let's see.
I cannot wait to see this. I'm sure it's going to be some in-depth analysis.
If it's anything like last time, it's gonna be amazing.
Here we go.
I don't have the money to buy the subscription, so this is Glassnode, right?
Glassnode.
Yeah, and so we can see the first indication. We can see the number of wallets are going way up all the time, right? And
up and to the right.
Up and to the right.
Up and to the right. Yeah. And here it's another indicator that if you add it to the previous indicator, which is also bullish, this red indicator is the one of the profitable wallets, like when they buy and when they haven't sold, basically. It's going also up, and it's amazing, right?
The Rick Astley's.
And my analysis say that basically I think the price of Bitcoin is going to go up. I don't know. I don't have all the data.
That's some solid analysis. That's some solid analysis.
Yeah, I don't have all the data because I don't have the full subscription to Glassnode. It costs like a leg and an arm to buy it. But
what can you tell us about that cross, Jello?
Yeah, the yellow.
That cross. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do the cross. How do I
get some triangles in there?
Okay. Wait. So the chart, we did that.
We did the wallets
like here, right? And the one indicator is like, and the other is like, and here, if you can see, they're gonna kiss. And when they kiss, guess what is gonna happen?
Sensual.
Exactly this. We're gonna go up because Bitcoin goes up. It's that simple. Just stack and hodl.
Oh my Lord.
And this is another segment of my TA. I'm doing this for years now, Preston. And if you want any advice, just DM me.
The only word that comes to my mind is gifted.
Yeah.
Yellow is very gifted.
He is gifted.
How do I close this?
All right. Preston, I'm curious, and I gave you some time to ponder this one. Because I forwarded this question to you earlier, but and I think this is something that we can all discuss because it's important. Where do you draw the line with apes that you think you can beat up versus apes that you think can beat you up? Monkeys can be included as well.
So when you sent me this, I was like, there's no way he's going to actually ask that.
No, it's happening.
But you did.
Yeah.
And then I didn't even really understand like what you were getting. Like, is he like implying that apes are something else, or is he like actually thinking like apes?
All right, so let me clarify. So like, for example, I can't beat up a chimp or an orangutan. There's no way that's happening, right?
How do you know that?
Because they're jacked. You ever see the picture of like a chimp with alopecia?
I don't even know my different levels of these things.
Right. So I figured at least like I could take a lemur is where I am on this statement. I don't know how further up the ape chain I can go because like gorillas out of the question, chimps out of the question, orangutans no way. But lemur, I could handle a lemur.
Is a lemur part of the monkey family?
Shut your mouth. I'm waiting for precedence.
I don't even know any of the species to like comment. I don't
Spider monkey.
I don't follow monkey.
Spider monkey.
Okay.
Follow monkey.
How many chair force hodls could you take on?
It's awful.
Greg had a goal of stumping you with
I have
a
no
question.
answer.
It looks
Oh,
like
he stumped me. Yeah, he did.
I prepped
Totally.
you too. I
He
prepped
totally
you,
stumped
and
me.
you definitely just fell face first. Face around your sword. All right, fine.
Could you take a Mark Cuban?
Preston versus Mark Cuban. Who wins?
There's no way I could deal with his head. His head is too big.
All right, fine.
Figuratively or literally?
I'll let you figure that out.
All right, so let's pivot.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna need
Pivot.
you. I'm gonna need
Pivot.
you. I'm gonna need you to give Yellow a call sign. If Yellow was a pilot.
Yellow a call sign.
Yeah,
Well,
give him a call sign.
you know the rules to the call signs, right?
I don't know the rules.
There's rules. You're not allowed to give it to yourself,
Right.
and you're not allowed to like it. So I don't know what would make Yellow upset, but that's where I would start.
That's everything.
Artie, what do you think? What do you think would make Yellow upset? I think Artie fell asleep.
RD is napping.
Take away his Red Bull. Take away Yellow's Red Bull.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Don't you dare.
Don't you?
Fish and chips pizza.
Get away from me.
Oh, shut up, Artie.
Get away.
That really pisses me off.
Yeah, I think Artie got it. It would call him fish and chips.
Fish and chips.
Fish and chips.
He kind of likes that though.
No, call Yellow that.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah, perfect. All right, fish and
Okay,
chips.
RD is the real Dora the Explorer.
So for those of you who don't know, Artie posted a poll about Bitcoin recently. The poll was, do you like Bitcoin? Yes.
Love. Do you love
Bitcoin? Yes, no, maybe. Right? It was the. What were you expecting the results to be out of that poll?
Engagement hack.
My favorite part was Yellow just took him to task. Just started calling him Dora the Explorer. Like, oh, look at the map. Do you like Bitcoin?
Where is the yes button? Can you find it?
RD stands for Real Dora.
Real Dora.
We have to have some more questions for Preston here.
All right, I've got real questions.
How do I turn on this helicopter, Preston?
How do I turn on the helicopter?
All right, so Preston, one of the things I've been most impressed with you and your show about, because I've been listening to it and watching it for a long time now, is you find very interesting and differing opinions that a lot of the time you're open to. So I've watched your opinion on things change over the years based on new information, and not a lot of people can do that. So my question is, who recently has changed your views on any given subject that you found it surprising?
And why is that NFTs?
I have a very poor answer. I don't have a good answer for you. I'm looking at it from a finance standpoint, right? And I'm open to the idea of me just being wrong that I'm a hardcore Bitcoiner, right? Like I don't ever want to like close the door to there being something else that could add value to the network. So where's the oh my god, I'm drawing a blank on these guys that are building these tokens that kind of like plug into Bitcoin. I don't understand it. Like I'm concerned that they have their own token. So when I look at like what Blockstream's doing and how they don't require a token to do some of these things, and I'm talking about the smart contracts. What's the guy's name?
Adam Back.
Is it the DLC?
No.
Samson Mo.
No. I'm not talking about the Blockstream guys. I'm talking about some of these other things that are. Pomp talks about it a lot. that they're doing these things that you can enable smart contract. Well, the RSK, the rootstock stuff, right?
Yeah, the rootstock stuff.
So you got that kind of stuff going on. Like on the surface, like I'm not convinced that you necessarily need that. And I've talked to a lot of smart people about it, and I don't feel like I get really the best answer out of like, yeah, that's definitely something you want to ignore. Like they're kind of like, well, yeah, I don't know that you necessarily need another token to be doing those things. Like I think you can do it without having another token. And I don't know the right answer, right? And I'm not going to pontificate on it because I just don't have the technical chops to be able to go toe to toe with somebody like an Adam Back, or even one of these guys that are like working on rootstock and their specific token. And there's another one I just cannot think of the name. I'm like total mind blank. Stacks. Thank you. And I haven't brought them on the show because I'm trying to understand it myself to be able to ask the right questions. And so I've just continued to avoid the interview with them because I want to make sure that I can fully understand both sides of an argument before I can step in and conduct the interview. So is that challenging kind of like my thought process? Maybe. I don't know. But I know I'm not going to do the interview until I feel like I can understand it better. And I'm still not there. I just don't feel like I can buy into it. So, I mean, I'm trying to constantly question just my point of view. Nothing has happened. And I think this is a key important point for why I'm not giving you a really good answer on this. I have a theory. The theory is the same theory that you guys have, that Bitcoin is taking over as a settlement layer, that it's going to basically reprice everything on the planet that has these massive capitalization rates. Like these capitalization rates, like everything's like 30x plus for their capitalization rates. It's all based on the interest rates that are out there because you got the debt market that's completely manipulated to down to nothing. Like all of those things are all part of the same like thesis. My money is positioned in a way to, Bitcoin to take advantage of this situation and to increase my buying power. It hasn't demonstrated that there's anything faulty with that thesis. Like the returns are continue to confirm that this is right. So why would I change the thesis? Right? I'm not going to change the thesis if it keeps working. And my expectation is it's going to aggressively keep working.
Well, you recently had a conversation with Mike Alfred regarding that thesis, and that he was talking about Bitcoin mining stocks like Mara, and he was expecting basically like your Bitcoin return plus a multiplier on top of that. Yeah. I mean, that was a little hard for me to. That was
So let me talk about that. So I see this a little bit differently than Mike, but I didn't want to. So when I recorded that interview, and I think Mike knows that I have a different opinion. When we did we did like a Spaces thing, and I was aggressively, well, not aggressive, but I was pushing back on that as an investment in my portfolio. He disagreed, right? When I brought him on the show, I want it to be more open-ended for people who are listening to it to kind of develop their own opinion without me being combative during the interview, so that it just kind of like opens up the idea for other people to think about it and to kind of hear his case on why he's valuing it. I think my point of view is a more extreme point of view on the topic. I don't own miners in my portfolio. The reason I don't own miners in my portfolio is because when you're doing portfolio construction, you're looking for positions that are uncorrelated, okay, that can provide where you're not compromising the return. So let me give you an example. Let's say you have position A and position B. Position A is going to give you a 30% return. Position B is going to give you a 10% return, and they're both completely correlated, meaning like when one goes up, the other one's going to go up, and when one goes down, the other one's going to go down, right? Why would I own B in that situation? Because I'm not getting any diversification on the correlation piece that would offset the up and down of the other, to remove that volatility out of my portfolio, right? Why would I do that? Well, I can't give you a good answer. Now, if if there was correlation or it was decoupled, where investment A was giving you a 30% return, but it was completely uncorrelated to investment B that gave you a 10% return, I would tell you you should probably have some exposure of investment B in your portfolio if you can't handle the volatility in your portfolio, right? Which comes down to all these other factors. So
intestinal fortitude.
Well, age, typically it's age. At our age, we would call it the other person that it's a lack of that. But like when I look at like my parents or somebody who's, let's just say somebody's 70 years old, like they can't really be dealing, especially if they're on a fixed income and they're sucking some of those dividends, or they're selling off some of that asset in order to subsidize their cost of living. Like they can't have all this volatility in their portfolio. So especially if their portfolio is running dry and they might live another 15 years or whatever it might be. Like there's all these other circumstances at play for portfolio construction. And so when I look at my own personal experiences, I personally can handle a ridiculous amount of volatility in my portfolio. I can, right? I'm in a fortunate position to be able to handle that. I don't see the mining stocks being uncorrelated at all to Bitcoin, but I see the return as being less because of the capitalization rates that I was talking about earlier, right? So I'm just not there. Now, Mike's argument, which I think is a good argument, is if you're going to lever that position, if you're going to pull a Michael Saylor and you're going to lever up to buy additional Bitcoin or to put yourself in an advantageous position to consume your competitors, they might outperform Bitcoin. But then for me, it comes back to like, by how much? Are you outperforming them by 5% with a ton more risk that's associated with that additional 5%? Because maybe they could over lever themselves and they could default, and they could, like, you get into all these things that introduce risk for the potential. And I say that strongly, the potential to outpace Bitcoin. So
there's also a difference between a Michael Saylor and a Marathon in what kind of interest rates they can use to lever up.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know, but it comes down to how healthy their free cash flows are and how little leverage they have on their balance sheet, and then what type of debt they're structuring. So like Michael is doing deals where he's doing convertible notes, and he's doing like all these kind of fancy things to drop the interest rates so that it's very advantageous. Now, can some of these mining companies do that, especially when they got so much CapEx on their balance sheet? I don't know. But for me, there's a whole bunch of work there for something that has probably like 1-to-1 correlation with additional risk, and you might not even have an additional upside. So for me, I'm just I'm just going to own Bitcoin.
Right.
Right. So, but I think it's a cool argument. And you know what, we get the question a lot, like, how do you value companies if you're using Bitcoin as your unit of account and all this kind of stuff? And so, I own Bitcoin. It's that simple. So it's a simple
smaller, quick question from Walton from Plebnet that is watching. For Preston, of course. Do you think Ray Dalio is playing 4D chess to accumulate like a motherfucker?
I think so.
I don't know. His comment that if it gets too big that the government will shut it down, for me in this interview that just came out 2 days ago, was like such an eye roll. That was such an eye roll.
Yeah.
It just, for me, it's like, okay, well, I don't think you understand the tech here. And I think his reply back would be like, I don't think you understand how this system is rigged. But hey, whatever, we'll find out.
System's rigged.
I have a question, Preston. So, I mean, in 2017, we all know that you ended up selling at the top, timed it perfectly. Pierre Rochard didn't talk to you for a year, and which is awesome. And now you've said like you're not gonna sell in this cycle or whatever it turns out to be, right? could you explain, what your thought process is this time? Is it purely based on the bond market? Is it based on the QE infinity, or what's kind of going on through your mind why you're not going to sell your whole stash this time?
Back in 2017, you didn't have the same situation as you have right now from a macro backdrop standpoint. So like the things that are happening right now, as far as the printing, like in March of 2020, the response to COVID printing wise and like debasement wise was like off the charts crazy. And this is all after that had played out. So like when I was looking at it back then, it just looked like, hey, this is getting overheated. And to understand, like, for the price to keep going up, like more and more people, which were all retail, had to keep showing up to the table to keep driving that price higher. At that point in time, Wall Street was laughing at it. Like you weren't having any of them coming on board to bid the price higher. So I was just looking around. I was looking at the size of it. I was looking at really kind of the Mayer multiple was like a driving factor in that decision. And then just the pure, like, the pure massive gain that I had on my hands that I didn't think was sustainable at that moment, but I still had a very bullish long-term outlook. Like when I sold in 17, I was, and you could ask the people that were close to me, I had 100% conviction that I was going to be buying it back. It was just a matter of at what price. So like, it wasn't like I was looking at it like, oh, I made a bunch of money there, now off to the next thing. Like I made a bunch of money there and I was like, and I can't wait to buy it. The entire position back plus some.
Can't wait to double my stack.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, luckily, then I'll say this. I think if I had to objectively look at what I did, I think there was so much more luck involved in what I did than skill. And so I say that because I want people to just have a lot of respect for what it is they're dealing with here. Because if you get it wrong, it's going to be a monumental mistake. And I think that I had the potential to get it very wrong back then when I did that.
So what's different this time?
So this time,
okay.
Yeah. So this time, like I was saying, you've got the central banks acting in a manner that is completely different than what you saw in 2017. I think you have like supply chain disruptions. You have interest rates that have been compressed literally down to nothing everywhere, with housing prices that are doubling, and people are just like, I mean, it's just pure insanity. And you're looking at the S&P, like, the recovery on like the S&P and the NASDAQ after the December or the March 2020 event. I mean, dude, it's up 100% in a year.
Nothing happened. Like nothing happened.
Insane. It's insane. So like if that starts to come back down, right, they're going to have to step in. And if they're going to try to stop that thing with as much force and energy that's been pumped into it, if they're going to try to reverse that back up again, do you know how much printing they're going to have to do to do that? It'd be like the best way I can explain it to you. If you've ever pushed your kid on a swing, right? So when you're like pushing them like at the beginning and there's not really a lot of like momentum coming back to you, like it's easy to like stop them in their tracks and like give them a push back in the direction like that they're not going to come through you. But like when they're full tilt, like swinging, like what we've got going on right now, like a ton of energy has been pushed into that. That's what we've seen in the economy is like a ton of energy, printing, debasement has been pushed into this thing. It's going to try to come back at some point through impairment of all the credit. Okay. And when it starts coming back, these central bankers to stop that thing in its tracks, do you know how much energy that's going to require? Unprecedented. Like people just can't even imagine how much debasement is going to happen to try to stop this thing in its tracks when it eventually tries to throw a fit.
It's interesting. It's interesting because once we got out of that, like the March 2020 event, and we kind of like the S&P 500 got back to normal levels or whatever. I remember everyone was saying, oh, the economy is doing great. And you're looking at all these people without jobs. You're looking at, everything that's going on. And I was like, the economy is not great. The markets are showing that they're fine, but the economy underneath it, the actual foundation,
disaster.
Yeah, it's a disaster. So that's kind of where I was sitting too, is the debasement that's going to come and going to continue to come, I think it's going to be something like we've never seen before.
When you're looking at the indexes, it's just like the CPI gauge. Like you're looking at the Dow. How many companies is that? Like all these activities force consolidation of enterprise into like these giant holding companies, right? And so like if you're tracking the growth of the 100 holding companies at the top, like they keep getting bigger. Sure, like that's what you would expect to happen, right? But you're not tracking all the countless small businesses underneath of all of this. You're not tracking any of that in the stock market index, right? You'll never see it if that's the metrics you're looking at, just like in CPI.
Yeah.
I want to be respectful of your time here because we're coming close to we're at the hour. But I do have a follow-up question on that if you're good with it. It's you've said in multiple podcasts that you were basically scouring newspapers from Weimar, Germany, trying to find similarities between their hyperinflation and where we are today. And I just want to get an update on that. What have you found out? What are you seeing in the news that's one way or the other?
Not too much from what I was talking about. I think I started talking about that probably 9 months ago or a year ago. I was kind of highlighting like, hey, this is what it looked like in like 1922 Germany, 1923 Germany. These were the articles that were coming out in the newspaper. And the common thread that you saw was companies are now starting to use other currencies, foreign currencies, as their unit of account to retain earnings within their balance sheet. And where I think that you're not going to see necessarily that headline of using a foreign currency or a foreign fiat currency is because they're all doing it simultaneously. You didn't have that happening in 1920s Germany. So that's why that was playing out, is because the dollar wasn't getting debased at a breakneck pace to make good on the World War I war reparations. And that's what was happening in Germany. So what I think, how I think that's completely representative of today is Bitcoin is going to be that thing that the articles are only going to increase. And so when Michael Saylor came out and he's like, I'm putting this on my balance sheet, it was after some of those conversations that I had with Stefan and others saying that these are the things that we should expect in a super cycle. Is like those stories should continue to progress. Now, it was hot and heavy at the beginning of this calendar year. And now that we're kind of near the end, you really haven't heard too many more companies putting it on their balance sheet. So are things cooling off? Yeah. I think for that narrative, they're stagnant. Do I think private companies are doing it? Of course. And they're not going to report it. So you won't know. You won't know. And I think that private companies, especially a lot of private companies that have founders that are still in charge of the company that are making bold decisions because they own all the equity, they're doing things like this. The larger companies that are these like blobs, that meme that you have, Greg, of like the dude who's like, they're scared. It's scared. Oh my God. The blob, the monster blob of whatever, right? That's what a lot of these like mega companies really are. They've got politicians sitting at the top of their companies. Nobody has a controlling share of the voting rights. And so the decisions in the incentive structure that's in place for a lot of these companies is don't make a risky decision on the board or you'll lose your seat that pays you $250,000 a year to show up for 4 meetings. So don't do anything out of the ordinary. And the CEO, he's the politician of all politicians that have worked their way up through that company. And they're just trying to keep their job so they can make $1 million plus per year. So they don't want to do anything that's super bold, especially when nobody else is doing this, but like crazy people like Michael Saylor, right? That's how a lot of them would view him. Because they don't fundamentally understand what's happening from a macro standpoint. So when we get further into this cycle, especially if we start to see chaos in the streets, especially because, you know, the basement is causing this impairment and you're seeing the Evergrandes and those type of entities blowing up. And if you still see headlines like this company is starting to put Bitcoin on their balance sheet, they're doing it with 5% of their holdings that are typically marketable securities. Like if you start hearing that kind of stuff, it's happening. Like that correlate or that situation of the 1920s Germany is playing out literally on a global scale. But instead of putting foreign currencies on there, they're putting Bitcoin on it in place of it because it's a stable unit of account.
Nice.
Tango.
No, yeah, I think you're gonna see smaller companies do it first, just like seeing El Salvador, one of the smallest countries in the world, right?
Totally agree.
That's you're not gonna see these big institutions do it.
Free Preston.
I mean, even MicroStrategy is small compared to like an Apple or whatever.
Totally.
But the people who feel the hurt the most are going to be the ones who
Free Preston.
Shut up, Sean. Free Preston.
All right, Preston, I want to say thank you for being generous enough with your time to come on and shoot the shit with us. We really appreciate it.
Dude, the only reason I want to do this is because you guys contribute so much more to the space than I think most would understand. I think that what you guys are out there doing, it might be a little ruthless at times, but at the same time, like this is a crazy time that we're going through right now. There is so much misinformation about what reality is, in my humble opinion. And you guys are out there just dropping these truth bombs in a way that it's just a different form of communication that I think is so important. And I don't see you guys doing that to people who don't deserve it, right? Like you're not out there like roughing somebody up that doesn't deserve it. Like some of these people are maliciously sharing information. Some of them are just banging their head against the wall with misinformation and refusing to do any semblance of work to understand what's going on. And you guys are right there to kind of put them in their place. And, you know, some people learn through pain. Some people learn through other people's experiences. And I think a lot of the people that you guys are roughing up are choosing to learn through pain. And so you're just supplying it, and I'm here for it.
Thank you for adding some legitimacy to a completely illegitimate show.
Thank you.
Yeah. Completely illegitimate. Yeah.
Completely. There are no parents here.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
Preston,
guys. It was a blast.
All right. Do you have anything that you want to tell people where to find you? Because I'm sure none of our audience knows who you are.
I do a podcast that's on the feed. We Study Billionaires. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Preston.
Thank you, Preston.
Good night, guys.
Cheers,
Shout
man.
out to everybody that watched.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot.